My name is Lena Carter, and I was 33 years old the night my boyfriend decided to test my worth in front of his friends. Not accidentally, not awkwardly, but with a perfectly orchestrated little performance designed to see whether I was good enough for him. The funny thing about humiliation is that it rarely starts with a slap. It starts with a smile, a toast, a celebration, and by the time you realize what's really happening, everyone else at the table is already watching to see how you'll react. Looking back now, the entire evening feels obvious, but at the time, I didn't see it coming. I had been with Adrian Blake for 4 years. We had just gotten engaged 2 months earlier. For most of that time, I believed we were building something stable, something real. I work in logistics management, which basically means my brain is wired to think about systems and efficiency, routes, costs, cause and effect. If something doesn't make sense, I eventually notice. Adrian, on the other hand, worked in event planning, which in hindsight should have been my first warning. His entire professional world revolved around appearances, lighting, atmosphere, aesthetic, the vibe. And unfortunately, that same obsession with appearances extended into his personal life, especially when it came to his friends. There were 3 of them: Talia, Becca, Chloe. They moved through the world like a synchronized unit. Bottomless brunches, designer handbags that may or may not have been authentic, and a particular way of speaking that made every sentence sound like a performance. From the moment I met them, I knew I wasn't their favorite person. Not because I was rude, not because I was difficult, but because I was practical. My car was 3 years old. My clothes came from normal stores. My idea of a good dinner involved burgers and craft beer. To them, I was the logistical assistant who somehow wandered into their curated lifestyle. Still, I tolerated them because I loved Adrian, or at least I thought I did. The engagement ring had taken months of research. I wanted it to be perfect. A 2.2 carat oval lab-grown diamond. Flawless clarity. Simple platinum band. Total cost, $14,500. Adrian had picked it out himself. And when I proposed to him, he cried. Or at least, he looked emotional enough that I believed the tears were real. Last Friday, Adrian walked into the apartment with an excited grin. "Babe," he said, tossing his keys on the counter, "the girls want to celebrate our engagement properly." "Properly?" I asked. "They're taking us out." "Taking us out?" He nodded enthusiastically. "Their treat." That should have been my second warning, but I didn't question it. The restaurant was called Aperture, one of those painfully trendy places where the menu reads like a science experiment. Fermented citrus foam, charred avocado reduction, smoked rosemary cocktails. The kind of place where every dish arrives looking like it belongs in an art gallery. We arrived at 8. The restaurant was dimly lit and loud, the air filled with music and overlapping conversations. Talia, Becca, and Chloe were already there, 3 martinis deep. "Oh my God, Adrian," Talia squealed, jumping up to air kiss him. Then she glanced at me. "Oh, Lena's here too." Becca smiled in that polite but dismissive way I had come to recognize. Chloe simply waved her martini glass. Adrian slid into the booth beside them immediately. Within minutes, the table was covered with drinks, pink cocktails, sparkling wine, something with edible flowers floating in it. "We have to try the tuna crudo," Becca announced. "And oysters," Chloe added. 2 dozen, Talia told the waiter, "and a bottle of Sancerre." Adrian laughed along with them. I sat quietly with my old-fashioned, watching. The dinner didn't feel like a celebration. It felt like a performance. Adrian laughed louder than usual. He kept lifting his hand to show off the engagement ring I had given him. The diamond caught the light every time he moved. Each sparkle seemed intentional, like he was signaling something. After about 2 hours, the plates were cleared. The women were drunk, loud. The waiter arrived with the check and placed it neatly in the center of the table. No one touched it. The silence lasted 3 seconds. Then Talia slowly picked up the leather folder. She slid it across the table, directly in front of me. Her smile was slow, careful, calculated. "So, Lena," she said. The entire table went quiet. "We've been talking." Becca and Chloe stopped laughing. Adrian looked down at the table. "And?" I asked. Talia leaned forward. "We just worry about Adrian." My stomach tightened. He deserves a certain kind of life, she continued. You're fine. Fine. But we just want to make sure you're really going to take care of him. I stared at her. Then I looked at Adrian. This was his moment. His chance to laugh and say, Talia, stop being ridiculous. Instead, Andon, he giggled. Actually giggled. Lena, he said softly, touching my arm. Don't take it so seriously. Becca chimed in. It's just Chloe. Talia tapped the bill folder. Think of it as proving your worth. This was. I opened the folder. $846. A dinner. I looked. His eyes were bright, expectant. He was waiting, and suddenly I could see the future. 40. Every holiday, every dinner, every decision judged by these three women, while my partner watched and laughed. I closed the bill folder slowly. Okay, I said. Talia's smile widened. Adrian squeezed my hand. I knew you'd understand. I stood up. They all blinked in confusion. I'll be right back, I said. Instead of walking toward the restroom, I walked toward the bar. The bartender was polishing glasses when I approached. The waiter who had been serving our table stood beside him, entering orders into a handheld tablet. I pointed discreetly over my shoulder. Table 12, I said. He nodded immediately. Yes, ma'am. I just had one old-fashioned, I continued calmly. Can I pay for that separately? I actually need to leave. Work emergency. The waiter glanced toward the table. Talia was laughing loudly again. Adrian was leaning across the table, waving his hand around as he talked. The leather check folder still sat unopened in front of my empty seat. The waiter looked back at me. And in that split second, something passed between us. Recognition. He understood exactly what was happening. Of course, he said quietly. That'll be $18. I slid my debit card across the bar. He ran it through the handheld machine and turned the screen toward me. $18. I added a $5 tip. He handed the card back with a subtle nod. Have a good night, he said. But the look in his eyes clearly meant something else. Run. So I did. I walked past our table without slowing down. I didn't look at any of them. But I heard Adrian's voice behind me. Lena, where are you going? I kept walking. The heavy glass door opened with a rush of cool night air, and just like that, the entire performance was over. My phone stayed silent for exactly 20 minutes. I was halfway home when it finally lit up on the passenger seat. Adrian calling. I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again? Eventually the calls stopped. A moment later, a notification appeared. New voicemail. I parked outside my apartment building and sat there for a moment before pressing play. At first, all I heard was noise, voices, clinking glasses. Then Adrian's voice burst through the speaker. Hi. Sharp. Panicked. Lena, where did you go? There was muffled talking in the background. The waiter just came back and said you only paid for your drink. A pause. Then his voice climbed another octave. Lena, the bill is still here. Another pause. It's $846. I leaned back in the seat. The voicemail continued. My card just got declined. Lena, my card was declined. Now there were multiple voices talking at once. Talia shouting something. Becca swearing. Chloe laughing nervously. They're saying they'll call the police if we don't pay, Adrian continued breathlessly. Lena, this isn't funny. His voice dropped into something closer to desperation. You can't just leave me here. The message ended with a frantic, call me back. I listened to it twice. Then I turned off my phone. I went upstairs to my apartment and poured myself a very large drink. The next 48 hours were enlightening. I wasn't actually staying at the apartment. Technically, it was my apartment. My name was the only one on the lease. My credit history. My deposit. My furniture. Adrian lived there too, but his contribution to the rent was a symbolic $500 each month. I paid the rest. Almost 80% of the household expenses. But I didn't go home that night. Instead, I packed a duffel bag, work clothes, toiletries, my laptop. Then I opened the desk drawer where I kept important documents. I pulled out a small file folder. Inside were the papers for Adrian's engagement ring, GIA certification, purchase receipt. $14,500 paid in full. I slipped the folder into my bag. Then I left. My brother Marcus lived about 20 minutes away. He opened the door wearing sweatpants and holding a half-eaten sandwich. "Hey," he said. "What's up?" I held up the duffel bag. "It's over with Adrian." Marcus didn't ask questions. He stepped aside and handed me a beer. "Guest room's yours." Sometimes brothers are the best kind of support. The quiet kind. Saturday morning, I turned my phone back on. The screen exploded. 32 missed calls. Adrian. Talia. Becca. Unknown numbers. The text messages were even worse. Adrian. "Where are you?" Adrian. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone." Adrian. Talia had to call her dad to pay the bill. Adrian. "I have never been so humiliated in my life." Talia. "You are a pathetic woman." Talia. "You just proved you're not good enough for Adrian." Becca. "Honestly, you did him a favor by leaving." I read through them calmly. Then I typed my first response. One message. To Adrian. Lena. "Adrian, after last night, it's clear we have fundamental differences in values. Your decision to support your friends while they tried to humiliate me into paying an $846 bill was unacceptable. This relationship is over." The response came instantly. Adrian. "A deal breaker over a dinner bill?" I didn't reply. A minute later, another message arrived. Adrian. "Lena, you're blowing this way out of proportion. I was drunk. They were joking." Then the real concern appeared. Right on schedule. "Anyway, I need to get into the apartment. My laptop is there and I have a presentation Monday." Pause. Then another message. Adrian. "Also, my card isn't working. You need to turn it back on." I smiled. That card was an authorized user card on my personal credit account, something I had given him years ago when we started living together. A convenience, a trust. That trust no longer existed. I replied calmly. Lena, the card you use is attached to my account. It was issued for my partner. You made it clear last night that you do not consider me a partner. The card will remain deactivated. 3 dots appeared immediately, then vanished. Then appeared again. Finally, the message came through. Adrian, you can't do that. Another message followed. Adrian, that's financial abuse. Then another. Adrian, I'm calling the police. I stared at the screen and laughed. Sure enough, about an hour later, my phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. Hello? Ma'am, this is Officer Delgado with the City Police Department. I sat up slightly. Yes? I'm currently with a Mr. Adrian Blake. He says you locked him out of his residence and cut off his access to money. I kept my voice calm. Officer, the apartment lease is entirely in my name. Mr. Blake is not listed as a tenant. As for the money he's referring to, that's a credit card attached to my personal account, which I have every legal right to deactivate. There was a pause. Then I heard the officer sigh quietly. His voice became muffled as he turned away from the phone. Sir, she's correct. Adrian's voice exploded faintly in the background. What do you mean she's correct? The officer came back on the line. Ma'am, this is a civil matter. We cannot force entry into a residence or compel someone to provide financial access. Understood, I said. The call ended. About 5 minutes later, another text arrived. This one, colder, sharper, more deliberate. Adrian, fine. Keep your stupid apartment. Another message. Adrian, keep your money too. Then the final one, the one that changed everything. Adrian, but I'm keeping the ring. You humiliated me. I deserve something after 4 years of wasting my time. I stared at the message and slowly I smiled because Adrian had just made a very expensive mistake. He had admitted everything in writing. I stared at Adrian's message for a long moment. I'm keeping the ring. I deserve something. People often imagine revenge as something emotional, explosive, impulsive. But the truth is, the most effective responses are usually quiet, methodical, logical, which, fortunately for me, happened to be exactly how my brain worked. This wasn't a breakup argument anymore. This was a problem, and problems have solutions. Step 1 was simple. I called my insurance company. The ring had been insured the same week I bought it. At the time, it felt like the responsible thing to do. Now it felt like the best decision I'd made all year. A woman answered after 2 rings. "Good morning, Crescent Mutual Insurance. How may I help you?" "Hi," I said calmly. "I need to report a stolen item." Her voice shifted slightly. "Of course, ma'am. Can you tell me what was taken?" "An engagement ring." Pause. "Do you know the approximate value?" "Yes," I said. $14,500. The pause that followed was noticeably longer. "I see. Do you know who currently has the ring?" "Yes," I replied. "My ex-boyfriend." Now the agent sounded very interested. "And do you have any documentation regarding ownership?" "I have the original purchase receipt," I said, "and the GIA certification number." "Excellent," she said. Then she asked the question that would change the entire trajectory of Adrian's weekend. "Has he admitted to possessing the ring?" I looked down at the message on my phone. The words practically glowed on the screen. "I'm keeping the ring. I deserve something." "Yes," I said. "He admitted it in writing." The insurance agent let out a quiet whistle. "Oh," she said softly. "Well, that certainly simplifies things." Her tone had completely changed. Insurance companies hate paying out claims, but they love situations where someone else is clearly responsible. "Ma'am," she continued, "we will open a claim immediately. Our legal department will likely pursue recovery from the individual involved." Recovery. Such a polite word for what was about to happen. Before hanging up, she asked me to email screenshots of Adrian's messages. I sent them within 5 minutes. Then I moved to step 2. I opened my phone again and typed carefully. Every word deliberate. "Lena, Adrian, the engagement ring was a conditional gift given in contemplation of marriage. The condition has now been voided. Your written statement that you intend to keep the ring constitutes admission of theft." I paused, then continued. "Lena, I have opened an insurance claim for the stolen property and provided your written messages as evidence." Another pause. Then the final part. "Lena, you have until Sunday at 5 p.m. to return the ring to me in person. If it is not returned by that time, I will file a police report for felony theft, and the insurance company will proceed with their legal investigation." I read the message twice, then pressed send. 3 dots appeared immediately, then vanished, then appeared again. Finally, his response came through. "Adrian, you're joking." Another message followed seconds later. "Adrian, you're seriously threatening to put someone in jail over a gift?" I didn't respond. Another message. "Adrian, this is insane, Lena." Then another. "Adrian, you're ruining my life over a ring." I set my phone down. Sometimes silence is the most powerful response. For about 3 hours, my phone stayed quiet. Then a new notification appeared. A direct message from Talia. Apparently, Adrian had shared my message with his friends. Her text was exactly what I expected. "Talia, you're seriously trying to put a man in jail over jewelry?" Another message appeared before I could even finish reading the first. "Talia, you're the most pathetic, insecure woman I've ever met." Then the final one. "Talia, we're telling everyone what kind of monster you are." I didn't reply. Instead, I took a screenshot. Then I sent it to my brother Marcus. His response arrived 30 seconds later. "Marcus, monster." I smiled. Then I turned my phone face down on the kitchen table. The deadline was simple. Sunday, 5 p.m. The ball was in Adrian's court now. Sunday afternoon arrived faster than I expected. Marcus made tacos. We watched football. I checked my phone occasionally. No messages from Adrian. No calls. Nothing. Part of me thought he would come to his senses. Maybe show up at Marcus's apartment. Apologize. Return the ring. Even after everything, a small part of me hoped he would make the smart choice. But 5 p.m. came and went. The phone stayed silent. Marcus glanced over from the couch. "Well?" I checked the time again. 5:07 p.m. I picked up my phone. "Guess we're doing this." I dialed the non-emergency police number. The operator answered within a minute. "City Police Department, how can I help you?" "Hi," I said. "I need to file a report for felony theft." The operator immediately transferred me to a detective. I explained everything. The engagement, the ring, the messages, the deadline, the written admission. The detective's tone was professional and straightforward. "Ma'am, An item valued over $10,000 with written proof of intent to keep it would qualify as felony theft in this state. That's what I thought, I said. He asked for Adrian's full name and last known address. I provided both. Then he gave me a case number. When the call ended, I immediately made another one. My insurance agent answered on the second ring. Crescent Mutual, this is Danielle. Hi, Danielle, I said. This is Lena Carter again. The deadline I gave him passed. And? She asked. He didn't return the ring. There was a brief pause. Then she spoke with unmistakable satisfaction. Understood. I've also filed a police report, I added. I have the case number. I read it to her. Her tone became almost cheerful. Perfect, she said. Our legal department will begin the recovery process immediately. Recovery. Again, that word. Cold. Clinical. Final. But Adrian still didn't understand what was happening. Not yet. The gravity of the situation didn't hit him. It hit someone else. Someone far less patient. His father. The phone call came Tuesday morning. I was sitting at my desk at work, staring at a shipping manifest that I had reread 3 times without actually absorbing a single word. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. Normally I would have ignored it, but something about the timing made me answer. Hello? The voice on the other end was deep, controlled, but simmering with barely contained anger. Lena. I immediately recognized it. Robert Blake. Adrian's father. Robert, I said carefully. I just received a call from a detective this morning, he continued, from the city police department. They were asking questions about my son and a $14,000 engagement ring you claim he stole. His voice hardened. They called my house, Lena. There was a pause. You need to tell me what the hell is going on. I leaned back in my chair. Did Adrian tell you what happened? He told me something about a dinner bill and you overreacting, Robert said sharply. He forgot to mention the police. I sighed quietly. Then let me start from the beginning. And I did. I told him everything. The engagement dinner, the their treat invitation, the restaurant, the bill. Talia sliding the check toward me. The demand to prove my worth. Adrian laughing along with them. Me paying for my drink and leaving. The messages. The credit card. The police call. And finally, Adrian's text saying he was keeping the ring. When I finished, there was complete silence. Not the awkward silence of someone thinking about a response. The heavy silence of someone processing disappointment. Finally, Robert exhaled. A slow, exhausted sound. Talia, he muttered. It wasn't a question. Yes, I said. That girl has been poisoning him since high school. Another pause. Then Robert spoke again, his voice quieter now. Lena, I'm sorry. The sincerity in his tone surprised me. My son is a fool, he said bluntly. He lets those women think for him. I rubbed my temple. Robert, I don't want to ruin his life. I just want the ring back. If I get it back, I'll drop the report. Robert didn't hesitate. You'll get it, he said flatly. I'm going to handle this. Then the call ended. 3 hours later, my apartment intercom buzzed. I had returned home after work to grab some documents. The sound startled me. I pressed the button. Yes? It's Robert. I frowned. I'll come down. When the elevator doors opened into the lobby, I immediately saw him. Robert Blake looked older than the last time I had seen him. 10 years older, maybe more. His shoulders were slightly slumped, and in his hand was a small black velvet ring box. My stomach tightened. You found it? I asked. He handed me the box without a word. I opened it. The diamond caught the lobby light immediately. 2.2 carats. Exactly as I remembered. I closed the lid slowly. Thank you, I said quietly. Robert rubbed his face. You're welcome. Then he glanced toward the glass entrance doors. Outside, parked along the curb, was his sedan. In the passenger seat sat Adrian. Even from this distance, I could see he was crying. Adrian's in the car, Robert said. He's not coming in. Good, I replied. Robert hesitated. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. She pawned it. I blinked. I'm sorry, what? Robert's jaw tightened. He pawned the ring Saturday morning. for $3,000. The number hit me like a slap. $3,000? Robert nodded grimly. Said he needed the money to pay Talia's father back for the restaurant bill. I stared at him. $3,000 for a ring worth nearly 5 times that. He didn't even tell me, Robert continued bitterly. The detective called before my own son did. How did you get it back? I asked. I went to the pawn shop with the police report, Robert said. They verified the serial number on the GIA certification. His expression darkened. It cost me $3,500 to retrieve it. He exhaled sharply. Adrian will be paying me back for the next decade. We stood there quietly for a moment. Finally, Robert shook his head. You're a good woman, Lena. I love my son. But you dodged a bullet. He turned toward the door, but before he could leave, the passenger door of the car outside flew open. Adrian ran inside. His face was a disaster. Mascara-streaked tears, red eyes, shaking hands. Lena, please, he gasped. It was a mistake. I didn't move. I was scared, he continued desperately. I had no money. I didn't know what to do. You drove me to it. I looked at him calmly. You drove yourself there. He stared at me. The moment you laughed with Talia at that table, I continued quietly, this relationship was over. His breathing became uneven. The pawn shop part, I added, that was just pathetic. His expression twisted. So that's it? He shouted. 4 years? You're throwing away our entire life over money? A neighbor's door opened slightly down the hallway. I kept my voice calm. No. I held up the ring box. I'm throwing it away over character. He froze. You don't have any. Silence filled the lobby. Finally, I stepped toward the elevator. Go home, Adrian. The elevator doors closed between us, and I didn't look back. The aftermath was surprisingly simple. I called the detective. Ring recovered, I said. Charges dropped. Then I called the insurance company. Claim canceled. A few days later, Adrian came to collect his belongings. He brought his mother. Marcus and one of his very large friends stood quietly in the living room while they packed clothes, shoes, about 800 skincare products. His laptop was still there. I handed it over. I'm not cruel, just finished. Later that week, my friend Mark sent me a message. Apparently, the fallout among Adrian's friends had been spectacular. Talia's father, the lawyer who paid the restaurant bill, had been furious when he learned his name was connected to a police report. He cut her off financially. Word was she was now selling designer bags online to cover rent. Becca and Chloe had distanced themselves immediately. No one wanted to be associated with the drama. As for Adrian, he lost more than the ring. He missed work during the pawn shop panic and was fired Tuesday morning. Unemployed, in debt to his father, single, and friendless. Meanwhile, I was out exactly $23. $18 for the old-fashioned, $5 for the tip, and I had a $14,500 diamond ring sitting in my drawer that I couldn't even stand to look at. I'll sell it eventually. Take the loss. Because honestly, that's a small price to pay for the truth. They wanted to test my worth. Turns out, I was the only person in that room who actually had any.